Late Night Health continues with Dr. Michael Lin. Dr. Michael Lin is, he was our resident dermatologist, and we thought we'd bring him back for a look at summertime skin. Dr. Lin, welcome back to Late Night Health.
I'm excited to be back.
Good. Hey, listen, before we talk about summertime skin, the weather is changing. Here in Southern California, I was recently on the East Coast, and the weather was beautiful, and more skin shows. Why is it that younger people's skin looks so much better than older people's skin? And how do I get it?
Okay. Well, so those are great questions. First, the reason why younger people's skin looks so much better is they don't have the sun damage that the older patients or people have. And our skin, when we're babies, is perfect. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And, soft, supple, the pigmentation is very regular. It's smooth. But as we get more and more sun damage and environmental injury, then the sun becomes rougher, becomes irregular pigmented, and becomes wrinkled. And these are things that we try to avoid by protecting ourselves from the solar rays.
And we know that now, but let me take a brief poll. We'll start with Joy. Joy, growing up, did you spend time outside, like at the beach or in a park or?
Of course.
Right?
Every summer at the pool, hanging out.
Right. And Mr. Almost Orange County Insane Darrell Wayne,
Yeah.
Did you run over to the beach?
It's interesting because this last week there's been a lot of back and forth on Facebook. If you grew up in Norwalk, do you remember blah, 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 blah. And one of them was the plunge, which was the big pool at the park, and people have been posting their memories of that. So, yeah, we used to walk to the pool back and forth almost daily during the summer, and a Volkswagen and a quarter could get you to the beach. So,
wow.
Down to Seal Beach.
Yeah. And what about you, Dr. Lin? Did you spend time out in the sun? Swimming?
Yes, I did. I didn't think much about the sun at all. Sometimes I would actually go and get a tan, like sit outside and just under the sun and try to get some color.
Right.
Yeah, and, based on what I've seen with my patients, things have turned like almost, 180 degrees because before people go to the sun, they're trying to get color. They would have their reflectors out there.
Oh,
They
yeah.
put their iodine and their tanning oil. But luckily, we've started to change our attitude towards the sun, and we see it actually as something that's deleterious or dangerous to our health.
But at the same time, we
glad.
need to spend some time outdoors for vitamin D and just so you don't go crazy. Right?
That is true. There's higher rates of depression in the northern countries, and there is an epidemic of low vitamin D in the United States. So a lot of times we're getting supplementation now.
And if my wife says to me, hey, let's go spend the day at the beach. First of all, I don't like the sand, guys. It gets between my toes.
That would never happen.
Yeah? What?
No, that would never happen.
The sand between my toes?
Your wife asking you going down.
Oh, she would. No, she asks all the time. I let her go. And so my question is, how do I protect myself, Dr. Lin, so that my skin will stay young and supple as it is now?
Well, I've seen and touched your skin before, so I know I know how your skin is. So we should talk about some treatments for you, but just as further prevention, so that we can make sure it doesn't get any worse.
Right.
We should definitely, as kind of the basis, is to wear sunscreen. Now, sunscreen is something we need to do on a daily basis. And I recommend integrating it into your skincare regimen. So, in the morning you wash your face, and then you put on a lotion, a moisturizer, and find one that has a sunscreen in it. So that's kind of a very basic thing that we can all do in the morning and on a regular, consistent basis.
And there's the SPF level. We have to be, do you want it to be as high as it can be, or is 15 enough?
Well, I recommend 30 or above.
Okay.
Now, a 30 is not twice a 15, and a 60 is not twice the efficacy of a 30. So it's actually, it's on an exponential scale. So that means, a 15 is much better than nothing, and a 30 is a little bit better than 15. But once you get past about 30 or so, then you're not really getting that much additional coverage.
Gotcha.
Now, Dr. Lin, I have a question for you. So I used to play beach volleyball a lot and on the beach constantly, and sometimes when I put sunscreen on, I would get burned worse in the areas where I put sunscreen on than where I did not. Can you explain why that would happen?
Well, I think it's kind of like it's more of a psychological problem here. So when you go and play beach volleyball, you think that you're getting this protection, and so you go out in the sun, you spend all day. Whereas if you didn't have the sunscreen, you might not actually spend as much time out there. Another thing is you have to remember, sunscreen has to be reapplied every 2 hours. So if you're going out there and playing for 3 or 4 hours, you're sweating, the sunscreen's coming off, it might actually be only lasting for an hour or so. So the areas that you're trying to protect with the sunscreen is getting the most sun, and then you're probably getting a false sense of security by having that sunscreen on, when really it's not protecting you as much as you think.
Joy, did you put it on change, or just once and that was it? Because that's what I used to do.
Yeah, no, we're out there all day. Like Dr. Lin was saying, you sweat it off and stuff, so we'd reapply in between every match. So, but there was times at the end of the day, I mean, we were blistering red and, on my chest or whatever, but then my arms were fine. Got it.
Interesting. What about the ingredients? We've talked about this a couple of years ago. There's certain things that you should make sure your sunscreen does not have.
Yes, there is some controversy regarding some of the preservatives found in sunscreens and also some of the active ingredients. So one of the preservatives are the parabens, which have been implicated in certain types of cancers. So there's no definitive evidence that parabens cause cancer, but at least you have the choice of not using some of those with the parabens in them. Another active ingredient called
I'm going to do a little plug. Your products don't have that in it.
Yes, that's true. I try to avoid putting parabens into the Dr. Lin skincare products just because I want to give people the option of having something that's a little bit possibly safer. And the other ingredient is the oxybenzone, which is a sunscreen type of ingredient. It blocks or absorbs the UV light. And that one has also been implicated in some hormonal irregularities and possibly cancer and other potential problems. So I try to tell people to avoid the oxybenzone if possible.
I can remember as a kid, the lifeguards. I always wanted this because I was never a lifeguard. The white zinc oxide that they'd put on their noses. Is that still something that's effective or not?
Well, actually, what they've done is they've made the particles more micronized, so they're not as white as before. So they're a little bit more cosmetically elegant, because no one wants to have, well, other than you, Mark, no one wants to have a big white nose.
You're right.
Right.
Well, I thought it was so cool because they got to sit up on the ladder and watch all it was kind of cool.
Well, the zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, those are physical block ingredients. So the physical block ingredients are very good at blocking the UV light so that they can't hit the skin. And actually, I'd like to kind of highlight something else that is kind of something I personally try to tell people to do. So sunscreen is just kind of the basis of some protection. But some other things that you can do is you can wear protective clothing. And I think it's very important. If you look at the lifeguards today, they don't wear like their bikini or their Speedos anymore. They're wearing like a jacket. They're wearing long sleeve shirts. They're wearing long pants because they're required to protect themselves, and they're also wearing a big hat. So we've come a long way as far as trying to protect ourselves. So it's not just the sunscreen, but it's also the sun protective clothing. The big umbrella that goes over those towers now, and another thing to protect against the sun is being aware of the hours that you spent out in the sun. So you want to avoid the sun between 10 to 4 p.m. because that's when the sun is the brightest. Okay, there's the greatest chance of sun damage and sunburn. Now, if you're there before 10 a.m. or after 4 p.m., then even though you spend the same amount of time in the sun, you're not getting that same amount of UV exposure.
And the UV is what really causes that the ultimate problem, and that would be some kind of skin cancer. Because I was blistered like joy at least once in my life, body surfing, and yes, Daryl, I did do body surfing.
Whose body did you use?
Somebody else's. It certainly wasn't mine. But I'd be out at the beach, and I can remember. I can remember even as an adult being up at I think Lake Arrowhead, and I fell asleep in the sun. I didn't have any sunscreen on, and oh my goodness, did I hurt? Could that one or two exposures come back and bite me in the skin, so to speak?
Well, Mark, I have some bad news for you. Some bad news.
Okay.
The incidence of developing melanoma is strongly correlated with early severe sunburn. So if you get sunburns when you're young, you're at a higher risk of developing melanoma, which is the most dangerous type of skin cancer. And it's probably one of the most dangerous types of cancers that we know. So we got to get you in, Mark, to do your annual skin exam. And
and I'm 6 months late. I will call you tomorrow, and I will schedule that. I am late for that one. Our guest is Dr. Michael Lin. He has a whole line of skincare products. We'll talk about those coming up. In studio with us from the Natural Products Association, we have Joy Akins, and she is the Regulatory Affairs Manager, and then our partner and producer, the insane Daryl Wayne. Dr. Lin and I will be back with our cast and crew in just a couple of moments. We'll let you know how to get in touch with Dr. Lin as well. By the way, visit us at latenighthealth.com, latenighthealth.com. I'm Mark Alyn. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about Rose Kennedy. Yeah. She was the one that they lobotomized. We'll talk about that coming up in a few weeks here on Late Night Health. All right, don't go away. More coming up as Late Night Health continues.